LeBron James became the first NBA player to score 40,000 points, leading many NBA players to comment on the GOAT debate. Scottie Pippen has switched back and forth on who is the GOAT in NBA history. Jordan had lesser roles with the Bulls than LeBron has had on all the other teams he's played for. MJ's former agent, David Falk, says that Pippen has envy against MJ because of the relationship with MJ's son, Marcus, and Pippen's ex-wife, Larsa. MJ commented about comparisons of LeBron and him, different eras. MJ previously said that he would take Kobe over LeBron, and a few weeks ago, he called Larry Bird the greatest small forward ever. Larry Bird said about LeBron James, played with worse teammates during his career, especially with the Cavaliers in his younger years. LeBron James said about Michael Jordan being able to score 50 in today's NBA that no player will be able to do that. Okay, so let's get into this, okay? Because there's a lot of questions to this debate. And for the last, I would say, 10 years, people have been trying to compare LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan. For some reason, these two other guys comparing him to Michael Jordan. And I watched The Last Dance once again. I've watched this documentary on the Chicago Bulls 3 times. And I think it's a fantastic documentary. If you haven't checked it out on Netflix, go check it out. I watched it during COVID. It was on ESPN. Fantastic, fantastic documentary. I couldn't wait for the next episode after the next episode after the next episode. LeBron James is going to break every single record before he's done. LeBron James is 39 years old. He already said he wants to play at least 2 more years. He wants to play with his son, Bronny. His son's probably going to move forward and put himself into the NBA draft after his college season with USC. He doesn't look like he's much of a player, but hey, we all know Marcus. We all know Jeffrey. They weren't good basketball players either, and they never played in the NBA. But the NBA is completely different. They love these athletic kids, and Bronny has the athletic ability to possibly make a roster. But when you sit here today and you bring up Michael Jordan's name and put it anywhere close to LeBron James, or even putting LeBron James' name even close to Michael Jordan, it's ridiculous. Okay? I've watched both these guys grow into being sensational players. Do I believe that LeBron James is the second greatest player of all time? He's proven it. He is. Yeah. No question, the second greatest player of all time. I don't care what Michael says. I know he loves Kobe, and may he rest in peace. And Kobe was a great player. On my list of great players and sensational NBA superstars, or even the greatest of all time, Kobe wouldn't even be on my top 10. So for anybody, including Michael Jordan, to say that Kobe Bryant is anywhere close to LeBron James is ridiculous. But for anybody to put LeBron James's name anywhere close to Michael Jordan is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't care if he's breaking every single record. I don't care if Michael Jordan didn't come close to 40,000 points. Michael Jordan retired for 2 years. His father was killed. He wanted to play professional baseball. Michael Jordan probably would have won, and I'm going to say this again, he won back-to-back 3 NBA championships. Back-to-back. He won 3, then he retired for 2 years, and then he came back and won another 3. If he didn't miss those 2 years in 94 and 95, he probably wins 8 championships in a row. And if the Chicago Bulls decide to run it again in 99, in the short season after the strike, they probably win 9 in a row. Michael Jordan was the reason because of that. And for Scottie Pippen to take shots and say that Jordan played a lesser role on the Bulls, what are you, nuts?
Yeah, really?
What are you, nuts? Scottie, let me ask you a question. The 2 years that Michael Jordan was retired, did you win a championship? Did you even make the NBA Finals?
Nope.
You didn't. You couldn't beat the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. You remember that? The Knicks couldn't get over the hump against Houston, but I remember that. The Michael Jordan-less Chicago Bulls could not beat the New York Knicks. And I think that was in the semifinals because they played Indiana in the Eastern Conference Finals and they beat Indiana and Reggie Miller. So I'm sorry, it was the semifinals. Honestly, LeBron James is a sensational player. And there are a lot of great players that we can remember. I can remember when I watched them develop and become superstars. I mean, I saw Tim Duncan when he got drafted from Wake Forest. It took him a little while. It didn't take him that long to win a championship, but it took him a little while to become the player that he became. I watched Karl Malone develop into one of the best offensive players, one of the best power forwards, the mailman we've ever seen. I watched Magic Johnson at the tail end of his career play on that 92 Dream Team, on Larry Bird, those great Celtic teams, and Isaiah Thomas on the bad boys of the Pistons. I even remember those Piston teams with Ben Wallace and Rasheed Wallace and Rick Hamilton. I remember it all. I was a big NBA fan. I was. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Michael Jordan played against better talent in the time that he was dominant than LeBron James has.
Especially in the Eastern Conference.
If you look at the talent that LeBron James has played over the years, honestly, I like Dwayne Wade. I think he's sensational. He's one of the best shooting guards we've ever seen. There's no question that he is. But the guy couldn't stay healthy. Chris Bosh, fantastic, great player for the Toronto Raptors. Did they ever go to the finals? I mean, seriously, LeBron James played in the Eastern Conference practically his whole career.
It really only had like every year like one good team in it that was like a real threat.
He won one championship in the Western Conference with the Lakers in the bubble years of COVID.
Right.
One championship. And that says a lot, okay? And I'm just speaking the truth. LeBron James, if he had his choice, if the Lakers were in the Eastern Conference, he'd stay in the Eastern Conference. The only reason why he went to the LA Lakers was because of his brand. He wanted to start his production company. He had all these different opportunities, and that's why he went to LA. Michael Jordan is the greatest athlete I've ever seen. The greatest player. He was a killer. A killer. I don't know if I'm telling you, go watch The Last Dance. If you don't know Michael Jordan, if you've never really seen Michael Jordan or know anything about Michael Jordan didn't understand the word losing, okay? He didn't understand it. He was out there. And by the way, Michael Jordan played 82 games every single season because he knew everybody was out there ready and willing to go and watch him play.
Yeah, and you also look at it from a statistical perspective, too. LeBron James played most of his career in what is considered a three-point revolution, in probably starting in the beginning of last decade, 2010. So he played from 2010 to now. That's 14 years of his career with having that being a prominent part in the game. Now, I'm not saying that's the strength of LeBron's game because he does so many things well, but also Michael Jordan did so many things well. So everyone that has LeBron as this GOAT is considering, Michael Jordan was an inefficient three-point shooter. Well, it wasn't as prominent in the game. Imagine Michael Jordan with today's training and today's concept shooting the three-pointer. Then your stats get elevated more. Michael Jordan is in that 40,000 realm because of that, and the volume is going to be there for him to do that.
Did you see Michael Jordan against Utah in the playoffs when he had to shoot those threes?
Yep.
I think I do remember when he played against Portland in the finals and he hit 9 threes in a row?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Michael Jordan could hit threes. Was he as efficient as a three-point shooter? No, because it was a different game then.
Right.
Like you were saying, Speedy, it's a different era. It's a different era. You're going to tell me right now, if Michael Jordan played in the game with the rules now where you can't even put your hands on anybody, if you're telling me that Michael Jordan wouldn't be averaging 60 to 65 points a game, you're absolutely blind. I don't know if you've ever watched the NBA in the 90s. You can throw people around. If you put a pinky on LeBron James, he's at the free throw line.
Yeah, whining to the refs. A revolution caused by LeBron James.
James Harden, Steph Curry. Come on, give me a break. Steph Curry wouldn't even be in the NBA for more than 3 years. They would have threw him around like a wet paper bag.
Yeah. My favorite fake stat of all time is James Harden probably averages 5.5 times he gets away with traveling per game. So
I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know if anybody remembers Charles Barkley. I don't know, Dennis Rodman. And everybody keeps talking about all these bad boys right now in the NBA or Draymond Green. Draymond Green would be punched out. I'm telling you right now, Shaquille O'Neal would knock him the hell out if he did the crazy stuff that he was doing to Rudy Gobert. If Draymond Green did that in the 90s, somebody would have killed him. Yep. Could you imagine him try to do that and pull that stuff off on Ron Artest? Could you imagine that? Ron Artest would have put his foot in his ass, literally.
If time travel ever does exist, you could get Draymond Green to travel back in time and put him in the malice of the palace so he could go.
Bill Laimbeer try to do that against those Pistons, those nasty Pistons. Bill Laimbeer, could you imagine that? If he tried to go up on a layup, Bill Laimbeer would have threw him 6 or 7, rows up on the, on the basketball court. I mean, there was no way. Go look at what the Pistons did to Michael Jordan. They beat the hell out of him. And Michael Jordan was a tough-minded player. He went out there and he still put up his numbers. He didn't give a crap how bad. Dude, he had bruises. He had stitches on the top of his eye in some of those games against those Piston teams. He went out there and still put up 38 against them.
Mm-hmm. And again, like I was saying, you have the concepts coming in of today's NBA. If Michael Jordan still has that elevates his scoring total as well. The other thing,
at least 20 points.
Yeah, the other thing too that you're not factoring, anyone that says LeBron is the GOAT is not factoring in, is Michael Jordan would have had access to modern training, which LeBron, give him credit for the longevity. The longevity is incredible.
Has anybody seen Michael Jordan's training in the 90s? I don't know. I don't know if anybody checked out when he was doing that cartoon movie. It was Space Jam.
Right.
They built a facility for him, okay? During that offseason, in the summertime, when Michael Jordan was coming back and he was trying to get healthy, that was when he played against Orlando and lost in the Eastern Conference Finals. That season, that offseason, Michael Jordan, they built a training basketball facility, and he had his own trainer there. He would do the movie. He would do the movie from 7 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. He would go and train during those breaks, 3-4 hours a day. And then he would invite NBA players, top NBA players, to come and play pickup games against him where he dominated, and then do it again and again and again and again, week after week. It took him almost 6 weeks, 7 weeks to make that movie. And Reggie Miller came out and said, that guy's not human. He's a machine. He's not human. How does he go and do a movie for 9 or 10 hours in a day, train for 3 hours with his trainer, and then go play pickup games till 11 o'clock at night and do it again at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning? Right. Could LeBron James do that?
Nope.
Come on. I don't want to hear his Space Jam movie. That was horrible. That was a horrible movie.
Yeah. And also, you look at him now having access to, potentially, in this hypothetical, obviously, him having access to all the modern technology that's there now, too. All these different types of, I'm not the expert on gyms or anything like that, but all these different types of more elaborate training processes that he would have had access to.
Snug, and you're laughing right now. 60 to 65 points a game, huh? Oh, okay, let's go back into the olden days. Wilt Chamberlain, okay, averaged in 2 seasons 50 or more points a game. Okay, nobody's ever done that. Now let's look at the NBA. Michael Jordan, before he went to the Bullets, okay? Before he went to the Bullets, Michael Jordan, his career, he averaged 33 points a game. Right? 33 points a game. Now, Michael Jordan, if he played in this time, now a guy like RJ Barrett goes to the line 12 times a game. He averaged, I think it's not 12 times. It's like 8 or 9 times a game. So he can average about an extra 14 to 15 points. We have seen James Harden. James Harden, when he was over there with the Rockets, he scored 15 or 16 points a game at the free throw line. All right? 15, 16 points over there when he won his MVP. All right? Could you imagine Michael Jordan play in this time, the way they call fouls, and he goes to the line and scores 20 extra points out of 33? That's 53 points a game. 53. You're going to tell me that Michael Jordan isn't going to shoot threes? You're going to tell me that Michael Jordan is not going to discover how to shoot a three? I mean, the guy was a great three-point shooter anyways. When he needed to score threes and he needed to put them up, he was putting them up against great teams.
Right. And nobody's saying, oh, the guys from the 90s are going to be able to transfer the game. Nobody's saying we're transferring like Shaq or somebody to shoot threes. It's Michael Jordan.
Charles Barkley,
Yeah.
okay? Kenny Smith. There's a bunch of guys. There's a load of guys that said if Michael Jordan played in the prime of his career at this time, he would be averaging close to 60 points a game. 60 points a game. I think you forget how great Michael Jordan was as a player. It's ridiculous. He was ridiculous. He was special. I'm not saying LeBron James isn't special.
Oh, yeah.
At this time, when we talk about eras, and I'll say Kobe at one point for like a 6-7 year span before LeBron James became the player he was, Kobe was the best player in the league. But he didn't do it as long as LeBron James and Michael Jordan did it. Mm-hmm. And by the way, when Michael Jordan was at the top of his game, he had Magic Johnson in the league. He had Larry Bird in the league. He had Isaiah Thomas in the league. We could go on and on. Patrick Ewing. We could go on and on. Akeem Olajuwon. I could bring up player after player after player after player. Larry Bird, Kevin McHale. There were better players in the 90s. It was a different game. You could put your hand on the offensive player. Michael Jordan, you could press your hands. Could you imagine if the NBA now you could put your hands on a player? I mean, you wouldn't be able to score.
Yeah.
They're so athletic. Michael Jordan was ahead of his time. His athletic ability is now. You're seeing players now have that kind of athletic ability. He was doing it in the 80s.
Yep, and doing it in a well-rounded way. There's no significant flaw in Michael Jordan's game that you could downgrade as the greatest, plus the clutch, plus the leadership, plus everything. Like, you can't transfer 90s concepts into today's games. Michael Jordan to do it in today's game. You have to give him the same access in today's game.
Fish, I want to get you in here. And I know you're a big basketball fan and you're a Knicks fan. There's a lot of questions to this argument. It's been a big, huge argument where all these players are going, veteran players, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant over the years, because Kobe Bryant said Michael Jordan's the greatest player. He'll always be the greatest player. But Kobe has a love fest for Michael Jordan. Your thoughts to this whole story?
Well, it's one of those things where it's evolutionary and you're never going to get the answer, that you want, because you're never going to get to see them play against each other. It's the only way to find out. But I like to look at it as nobody was doing the things Jordan was doing before him, and he was the real innovator. And Kobe took what Jordan was doing and made it a little bit more modern and added a couple of things to it, but maybe more ruthless. But I don't think he was necessarily as talented as Jordan. I don't think anyone was. Jordan, I mean, I shouldn't say ruthless. No one was more ruthless than Jordan, but Kobe just seemed meaner. You know what I mean? Like, he seemed it a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that part is, I wasn't focusing on that part.
Ever
but yeah,
since
I can say that.
he changed his name. He changed who he was after the whole rape number. He became the Black Mamba.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of positive to say about Kobe as a philanthropist and artist and all those things afterwards. He won an Oscar, before he died, which is crazy to think about as well. And then you have LeBron, who's kind of the evolutionary magic with the influence of Jordan and Kobe. And it's just kind of a beautiful thing to watch that. Now, I don't know who LeBron's influenced to play like him, the same way Jordan influenced a generation and a half. Well, but no, I'm talking like now, who plays like LeBron?
Right
the
now,
younger
nobody.
people.
Michael Jordan, he changed the game, and it took Kobe Bryant to really, change. Bring that style back, but bring it in a different way. I think there will be a player in the future that will come out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. It's not going to be his son, but somebody's going to come into the NBA and is going to transition in that style of game. It's a different game, but again, internationally, Michael Jordan brought the game of basketball out there.
Yeah.
I mean, Dirk Nowitzki's, all these other guys. And by the way, David Stern said it very, very well in The Last Dance. He said Michael Jordan turned basketball where it was really a United States game, and he brought it internationally. Now, 216 countries fell in love with the game of basketball because of Michael Jordan. LeBron has taken it to another level, but if basketball wouldn't be what it is today without Michael Jordan. Look at the sneaker deals. Look at those deals now. Why are those sneaker deals? Are these players are getting hundreds of millions of dollars? Because of Michael Jordan. Why is Michael Jordan's sneaker the number one sneaker being sold still to this day? Because he's the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, and like, first off, it's 6-0 in the finals. It kind of starts and stops there for a lot of us that support Jordan in that argument, because we've watched LeBron fail. Now, Jordan, of course, failed, before he got to the finals in the 80s, but it was literally because the league, teams decided we're just going to be as ridiculously, aggressive. The Pistons, the Knicks later on, taking that Pistons mentality. But really, I mean, if you go back, especially The Last Dance, when you watch that, because I rewatched it too, man, and what they did to him, the Jordan rules. I think there was a 30 for 30 years ago as well called the Jordan rules you can watch. That was just phenomenal, talking about how they would treat Jordan differently, and how it's kind of like, how Shaq would get fouled all the time, and he wouldn't, they wouldn't call it. Jordan had those rules, and until Jordan broke through, they didn't really give him the fouls like that in the 80s. So in the 90s, obviously things changed as he was the senior guy on the circuit and he started winning. But you got to look back at the fight that he had. I don't remember LeBron fighting like that. I just remember his teams kind of sucking around him. I remember the 48 special against Detroit. I remember some really great things he did when he was younger. But at no point in time did you think that, I don't know, I didn't grow up in the 80s like that. I was a baby, but I just can't see them being comparable. And my point earlier was more, just to finish up, was that the guys, Kobe was playing like LeBron, like Jordan, and they were in the league together at the same time. No, I don't see LeBron's direct influence on the game in the style that he plays on the younger generation, the same way that Jordan influenced the younger generation. Like I said, who plays like LeBron? Maybe he's just a one of one and no one's going to play like LeBron because he's just so talented, sees the game like magic, has the power of Karl Malone and the talent maybe of Jordan, Close, Kobe, those types of guys. But nobody plays like him. How does he influence the league on the same level as Jordan? I don't think it's an argument still. I think it's Jordan.
Jordan revolutionized the game. And by the way, why does LeBron wear the number 23? Why do you think he wears the number 23? Because his favorite player was Michael Jordan. And how many players right now in the NBA could say or have said that Michael Jordan was their favorite player? Even when they weren't even born. They weren't even born, and they watch clips of Michael Jordan, and they all say he was their favorite player. So that says a lot. I mean, there are people that I know that are big basketball fans that never saw Michael Jordan play at the time where he was the best and the prime player in the NBA. And all of them have told me that Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. And I say, how could you say that? You never saw him play. Oh, I saw clips. What do you mean you saw clips? You never get a chance to see him really play. How dominant he was. What he did for the NBA. Changed the game. Changed everything. He never played in a game 7 in the finals. Never. LeBron James, he lost in the playoffs. He's lost in the finals. Michael Jordan in the finals never went to a game 7. That by itself should tell you something about who he is. I don't know if anybody remembers his final year in 1998. They were down. Yes, they were down with 38 seconds left in that game, in game 6 against Utah. Who do you think brought him back in that game? Who do you think stole the ball and then put the ball in the game-winning shot in that game?
He pushed off on that shot?
What? No, absolutely not. He crossed over. He was already falling on his ass. Everybody keeps saying
Probably
he pushed
was.
off. He never pushed off. It's ridiculous.
It's one of the most Yeah, it's one of the
He
most
never pushed
amazing
off on him.
plays,
He never did. Ridiculous.
defense to offense in an NBA Finals history. I mean,
Why?
it
Because
has
he
to
had
be.
his hand on his
He
hip.
won it. No,
He had his hand
it's
on his
you
hip.
know I
How
just wanted to
small
bring
is
it up.
Michael? Just think about it. He was smaller than Murray. I think it was Murray, right? Oh no, Byron. Who's the guy he pushed
Russell,
off?
Byron Russell.
Yeah, Byron Russell. That's right. It was Russell.
It was like an inch shorter or something.
Inch shorter and probably 10, 15 pounds lighter. Okay.
More. He was a big guy.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. How are you going to push a guy that's 20 pounds, 25 pounds more than you like that? I mean, seriously, he crossed over. He crossed him over. He was falling on his ass anyways. There was no way he was going to stop Michael Jordan over there. And maybe if he was at the three-point line. Maybe he was at the free throw line. Michael Jordan won't miss a shot like that. And by the way, who cares? They still won the game. They shouldn't have won that game. Michael Jordan was one of the greatest two-way players we've ever seen. Okay? Ever seen. He won. You'll never see this. He won Defensive Player of the Year in the same year, the MVP in the same year, and the All-Star MVP in the same year. Nobody will ever do that again. Guarantee it. Book it, sell it. And I hated Michael Jordan. I'm a New York Knicks fan. I couldn't stand him every time he went to Madison Square Garden. And by the way, I got a chance to watch Michael Jordan. And you know what he scored in that game? 49 points against the New York Knicks. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in the nosebleeds. I was, 13 years old with my uncle and my two cousins. I couldn't stand the man. But when I look at greatness and I try to compare greatness, when everybody says Muhammad Ali and Wayne Gretzky and this guy and that guy, there's only one. There is only one that I put on my Mount Rushmore, whatever it is. What is it? What do they call that?
Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore, whatever it is. The only one that I put up there. It is Michael Jordan. No Babe Ruth. No Mickey Mantle, no DiMaggio, none of those baseball players, Ted Williams, none of them. Michael Jordan is the greatest athlete to ever play the game. Any game.
I don't think people realize, a younger generation, PD, I don't know if you know this one, but I remember playing, I had a video game. It was like Michael Jordan Chaos in the Windy City. It was a terrible video game for like Super Nintendo. But you have to understand, he was so thorough in the culture of this country in a way that nobody ever else was. Even LeBron, who I would say was close, but never like that. He took over. I mean, he was everywhere. I'm about 5 years younger than you, Errol, a little less than that. I grew up with Michael Jordan. You know, there's lunch boxes everywhere. When he came on live TV on a primetime game, it was a real event. People went out of their way to watch. The numbers that he would get, no one's come close. It's not really an argument if you think about just the impact that he had compared to LeBron.
I don't care what Scottie Pippen says either, by the way. Scottie Pippen's an idiot. The fact that he even comes out and by the way, on the Last Dance, he says, "Oh, I played with the greatest coach and I had the greatest player on my roster." Now, all of a sudden, because his son Marcus was messing around with his ex-wife, he thinks that LeBron James is the greatest basketball player of all time. Get off it, Scottie. Stop it, Scottie. You were one of the best number two. You were one of the best Robins we've ever seen. And for you to come out and throw Michael Jordan under the bus like that, shame on you, man, because I know you don't believe that. I know you don't believe that. So that's ridiculous. But anyways, no Sean Smith tonight, but no problem. Hopefully it's no problem. As you know, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including The Loudmouth with me, Speedy, Petey, and Sean Smith every single Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listings of all our shows, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Michael Jordan, I know Worldwide West is a Chicago fan and grew up with the great Michael Jordan. When we have been arguing with LeBron James' greatness, we will get into that. But first, we call this segment Let's Parlay.
It's time for Let's Parlay.
We have the return of Worldwide West. Ladies and gentlemen, he is back. and I know he's going to give you some winners. Worldwide West, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, fellas? It's been a few weeks.
Yes, it has been. You look good, man. I like the yellow on you. And
Thanks.
by the way, Bitcoin is up 69,000, buddy. You were right.
Yeah.
You were right. 70,000, you said.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I could talk for hours about that, but man, it's been a great run, and it's going to continue. So
it will, and then it'll drop again, and that's what always happens. It goes up, and then it'll go down, and that's when you jump on it again, and then it'll go up again. And so when it goes back down to 30,000 or 28,000, it will. It always does. That's when you snag. That's when you snag them. So, but we're not here to talk about Bitcoin or the stock market. Your thoughts to Michael Jordan and LeBron James?
You know, I grew up in Chicago, and you know, there's an argument that if you never saw MJ play, you know, you kind of lean towards LeBron, and the stats are there that to support LeBron, but there was beyond the stats. Well, to start with, the game, it was completely different. It was way more physical. It was far lower scoring, and the three ball was not a part of the game the way that it is today. There were a few guys in MJ's era that could shoot the three, but I don't even think that those guys in today's game would be shooting 3-pointers consistently with some of like the average 3-point shooters that we have. Like you know, back then there was Stockton, you know, Legler was a 3-point shooter. The Bulls had Steve Kerr, but people forget Steve Kerr was like the 7th or 8th option. He went in to get Ron Harper some rest. And so the game was very different. It was way more physical. I don't know what LeBron would look like in a game that was physical like that. And the Hall of Famers that Jordan beat along the way to all of those runs, forget the fact that he beat Hall of Famers, because I think LeBron has gone against and beat some Hall of Famers too. I mean, but those guys were way more physical. Like I think of some of the battles, like the Bulls and what they did against some of those really intense, physical, bad boy Knicks teams. But there was beyond the stats and the results on the court. And I like that you dropped the he's never seen a game 7 in the finals. But there was this feeling that he's going to do it. And LeBron doesn't give you that feeling. Like you can't describe it unless you lived through it, unless you watched it. I mean, statistically, Wayne Gretzky is in a world of his own. I mean, I think there's a stat out there, like if you took all his goals away, he would still be the points leader. So, but just in terms of greatness and the feeling and the culture that existed around the game because of Jordan, and he went out there and did it. I mean, he backed up every bit of hype that was out there, and he never lost the finals. And there's an argument that they would have 8-peated had he not farted around in baseball for 2 seasons.
9-peated, because if they came back in 99 in that short season, they probably win that year too. And he even said that in the Last Dance. He came out and said, I was at the prime of my career, and I was a different player. I was not only I had the ability, the athletic ability, I had the brains to really continue being that player that I was.
And there's no doubt that there were injuries that did not make the media that MJ played through. There was no load management. There was no power like LeBron has, moving to teams and setting up big three. I mean, good for LeBron. I mean, he changed the game in terms of player mobility and the options that they actually have. And it's cool to watch. But the load management, I just can't stand it. And as a fan, and now with sports betting everywhere, anytime you are attempting to bet an NBA game, you have to really understand the roster and who's playing and who's not. And I don't even know how many games LeBron has played. Like he played in the All-Star game, then didn't play the very next regular season game, which actually has meaning in the standings. MJ would never do stuff like that. And there's more to what makes the GOAT than just simply the stats and the championships too. But
Michael Jordan also wasn't political. He wouldn't go out there and speak anything but basketball. He didn't want to get in the limelight. And by the way, could you imagine if social media was around when Michael Jordan played? Could you imagine? I mean, he would be even bigger of a superstar.
What was his big quote? They buy Nikes too.
Yes.
But that was his focus. He was selling shoes, and he was Gatorade. He was Be Like Mike. I mean, people listened to the song that was created for a commercial because they liked the jam.
No, I agree with you. I think Michael Jordan changed everything. I mean, basketball sneakers became a style. It wasn't just basketball sneakers. I didn't want to buy Nikes or Jordans just because it was, I was playing basketball. I bought it because it matches. Those sneakers are hot. They match with my shirt. They match with my hat. He changed the style. He changed everything. He became the it factor in fashion and everything.
He did. And if you start to look at other sports and like who those GOATs are, I mean, Tom Brady's the GOAT quarterback. He's definitely not the GOAT football player. I suppose the trendy thing to do is throw Mahomes into the conversation. But you start to look at these GOATs across sports. Like I think Tiger Woods earlier in his career, there's probably a legit conversation because he became a little bit of a cultural icon. I mean, he brought a group of people that weren't accepted on golf courses to enjoy the game. He brought golf to Nike. But
how about Dale Earnhardt? What he did for NASCAR. I mean, nobody watched. I know NASCAR is so big worldwide. I mean, it's definitely down south. But Dale Earnhardt, when he was in NASCAR before he died, I mean, it was at its all-time high. It was unbelievable how. I mean, Dale Jarrett and him, they would go at it with each other. He was fantastic. He was the face of NASCAR.
Michael Jordan was so much the GOAT in 2020 he somehow became the GOAT again, and the number one trending viral search on social media in 2020, decades after he won his last championship. And there's
his
more
crying memes is the number one meme in professional sports. There's crying. He made a joke when Kobe passed away. He brought up the whole meme thing.
Yeah, there's a lot more to being the GOAT than just simply scoring 40,000 points and having all those stats and chasing some rings and load managing. And LeBron is too, for sure. I mean, what he's done on the court, a lot of it will never get repeated. I'm not LeBron bashing at all. There is a real argument, but there's more to being the GOAT than just simply the statistics. What Michael Jordan consumed the entire sports world and still does to some degree. It's 2024, and we're debating who's better, Michael Jordan or LeBron James. That won't happen for LeBron in 20 years.
Michael Jordan hasn't played in 24 years, and they're still speaking about him. That says a lot about who he is and what he really did for not only basketball, but for professional sports and fashion. He's everything.
I would argue that Steph Curry, and I know you don't like him, but Steph Curry's impact on the game has changed the NBA and more than anything LeBron has done. The way that he shoots threes, we now want to see the 3-point contest on the All-Star skills competition. And we take a dump all over the slam dunk contest. Players everywhere are shooting threes. Scores are at an all-time high. Steph did that. Little kids that are playing at the park or in the gym are trying to shoot threes. They're not trying
and you know this, Wes, and before we get into Let's Parlay, I will say this. When I watched Michael Jordan play, I wanted to watch every second, every minute when he was on the court because he was going to do something we've never seen before. Every time he was on the court. And by the way, we didn't have the NBA package. You didn't get, if you weren't in Chicago, you were in Chicago. So you had a chance to watch all the games. But if you're here in New York, you didn't get a chance to watch Michael Jordan play in every single game. And to me, every time he was on the court, and he, by the way, played 82 games. He came out and said it. He knew that everybody was coming to see him. He wanted to make sure that no matter what, hurt, limping, he was going to go out there and he was going to play, and he was going to make sure that every single fan got a chance to see him play.